Hi, I'm Christopher Crumley, Associate Editor at SDM Magazine, and this year's One-on-One with the Winner is with TMA Central Station Manager of the Year, Erik. Congratulations. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, hi, I'm Erik Chalifour. I'm an operations manager for Telus Communication located in Canada. So, hi, Christopher.
Hey, thanks for making time. We've spoken prior. One of the things I wanted to give you the chance to lay out is at your company, you're one of a few central station managers, and I was curious if you could lay out sort of what that looks like at your company and what your niche is.
Sure. So, I'll give you a bit of a broad line of what a central station manager actually is, and I'll, dive in more into my role specifically. But a central station manager, for anybody in security, will probably already tell you to have a fair idea of what it is. But what it is it's an operation manager who usually manages a team of supervisor who's going to have multiple front lines, usually up to hundreds under them, which are the team will respond to alarm signals. Whenever burglary goes off, a fire alarm, medical alarm, a hold up, panic, you probably get the idea. It has to be responded by somebody. Make sure are you okay? Do you need emergency services? So the operations manager is going to be the call it the top hat that's going to be making sure services levels are met, coaching's happening, quality assurance is happening. Is there any complaints from customers? Is there reassurance? Follow up needs to happen. Make strategic planning and things like that. Within or get Telus, I own a bit more of a niche role within the operations manager. My portfolio is more specific to any emergency services relationship, complaints, false alarm fines from cities, all the contracts with our third party services, all the external monitoring, things like that. I also own, a false alarm reduction group to make sure that, if you're a customer and your alarm is faulty, we'll proactively go to you instead of reactively. So it's just to enhance your customer experience, and also own what we call the event response team. Anybody that's had an actual, fire, burglary, medical, Telus owns a program where we're actually, going to follow up with you, make sure are you okay following these events, and if you do need something, maybe maybe your house was lost, which is very unfortunate, but we'll actually put you up in a hotel on our dime. Maybe you're going to go to the hospital. We'll send you flowers. Maybe nothing major happened. We'll maybe just send you a basket. Just say, hey, we hope you're doing well. So this is more of my more niche portfolio. I'm more of the master service agreement, third party management kind of operations manager nowadays.
Wonderful. And can I ask, given that you've laid out all of your responsibilities, sort of what like an average day looks like in your role? Like, what are you, I think you mentioned what you're dealing with, but what are you dealing with,
Sure, sure, sure. So most of my day, of my own day to day nowadays looks like at, in the morning, checking with my supervisors, saying, hey, are all our front lines okay? Is there any, escalation cases, any inquiries we've received that nobody has an answer to or doesn't know where to go? I'll touch in with our partners, make sure, has anybody escalated something to Chalice from them? Do they require service from us? Is something happening to my customer base into a different location? Do emergency services, like fire, police, etc., maybe need support from us, maybe they've noticed a trend, a pattern, so we work very closely with government agencies, make sure that we don't waste their resources, because obviously it's like anybody, they've got limited, staff available to respond to 911 emergencies, so we don't want to, leverage them for no reason. Obviously, I'll do a lot of strategic planning, prepare projects, do a lot of project management, look at automation, manage a lot of invoicing from third parties, make sure, that we stay on budget and, they get paid on time. It's great for a good relationship between us and our third parties. So this is what most of my day look like. It's a lot of strategic planning, a lot of project management, and then escalations and internal, discussions within different business units. Make sure, does somebody else need something from us for monitoring? Does somebody else need, maybe information, escalation, just general help? So this is what more of my day-to-day is going to be looking like.
Your relationship and maintaining that relationship with, as you mentioned, government agencies, but also, first responders, your sort of approach or philosophy or however you want to phrase it, can you tell me a bit about, handling that, being that it's one of your primary, responsibilities?
There's no 100 ways to go about it. The way we do it to maintain, I'll say, a good relationship with first responders in Canada is to keep an open line of communication. So every single service have a single location where they can send their inquiries, and all of them, actually, we have our personal phones and our email signatures and things like that. People can call us directly. It's an open line of communication. It's a two-way communication. If we need something from them, we, either email them, call them, have an open discussion, book meetings. The same for them. If they need something from us, we're easy to reach. It's always things available, or turnaround time is usually within a day. They're going to give an answer, or at least say, hey, we're looking into it. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. So it's very much like an open line of communication. It's a partnership between us and them. I mean, they are the emergency services. They're here for a reason. I mean, they're here for 911. They're here for customer support, and we're here to make sure that our customers are supported, but we're not making this at the detriment of the emergency services. Since we're a private company, we want to make sure that their relationship with us is great. So if we need something, they're going to be willing to help us, and if they need us, they'll be comfortable to come to us.
Wonderful. Do you think you'd be able to describe what your management style is like?
I could. It's kind of a multifaceted one. Obviously, I don't like to use the approach of one size fit all, but if I'm to look at it, I'm what you would consider more of a coach-like kind of approach. So anything I will do, I'll mostly let my staff handle their own inquiries from day to day with an oversight on it, but not an overbearing one. So I'm going to be the guiding hand behind them that will slowly nudge them into the right direction, but letting them be able to do their own small mistakes. Instead of going full speed to the wall, I'm going to just nudge them before they go there, but so they can learn from the experience, right? We're going to be asking a lot of inputs out of our staff. It's not just Erik that solely does decision and how we're going to be running the department, the unit, the future of how we're going to be doing things. I don't do the frontline work anymore, or very rarely now. So anything that needs to change has to come from them. The first one impacted will be them. So for me to be able to do something, I'll need their input, because I don't want to. My idea may sound great on paper, but before I push it to somebody, I need their input. Make sure how is it going to impact your day to day, right? So it's very much of a coach-like approach. I've got a very big open door policy. Anybody can go talk to me. Doesn't matter if you just started 3 days ago or you've been here for 25 years. If you're a frontline agent, maybe a senior, a supervisor, a director, you probably get the idea. Anybody can come talk to me. There's what I'm going to call hierarchy that says, hey, you can talk to me. And something that's very big is leading by example. If I do something and I tell somebody, don't do what I just did, then I should not have done it. So I'm a big preacher of lead by example.
This next question can be a bit tough. It's hard to be put on the spot like this. It might make you feel a bit um, self-conscious, but you won Central Station Manager of the Year, and I'm just curious if you had an opinion on why you think you're deserving of this.
You're right. That's a rather complicated question. If you were to ask solely Erik as to why, I would tell you I don't know why, because I would say there's nothing in particular. But if I take a step back and think about it a bit, I could see some traits that would make people say that it could be the manager of the year, and kind of goes to this. It's something Telus has, and that resonates a lot with me. It's the customer first approach. So whatever we do has the customer as the customer first in line. Whatever we do, it's always think, is this going to impact customer? How's this going to work? I always challenge the status quo. I mean, we're going to probably talk about it, or I might come back to this later. But I've been with the company for 15 years. Anybody who's been with the same companies for a very long time will realize companies have either two ways: either you change all the time, or you usually remain fairly static with some changes. I'm a big fan of challenging the status quo. I usually go to a lot of obstacles, and when I get obstacles, instead of standing in front of them, I figure out creative way to go around them. So it's probably what makes myself a very fairly contender for this, is how I challenge the status quo and obstacles. I don't take no as an answer. To me, you always got to go fight the battle for the good reasons.
Wonderful. And I think to this point, we've kind of laid out most of your core principles, but for the sake of concision and putting them all together in a little package, would you like to kind of round them all up and then lay out your core principles as a manager?
Sure. I mean, my core principles are data is king. It's an open door policy for everything that I do. It's obviously lead by example, and make sure to make time for your employees. At the end of the day, a manager, and I'm going to use this as manager of the year, you're only as good as your people. A manager doesn't make their employees, the employees make the manager. So at the end of the day, everything that I do is for them.
Could you give a bit of insight into how you would I guess utilize that? Um, to improve our operations or whatever it is. But I'm assuming you're gathering data. What are you looking at, and what are you trying to do with the data that you're grabbing?
Sure. I mean, in my more specific role, mine's more, I'm going to call it geographical for, where are the alarms going off? Which, alarm services are we using? Which emergency services are being met? How many invoices are we receiving? Why are we receiving this? What's the data points included in them? What needs to happen with these, items? Once you lay them all out side by side, you look, what's my biggest, I'm going to call it in brackets, usage of my time? And that's for either me or my own team. Is there a way for us to reduce the impact on both the team and myself with all of these data? Is it something that could be used to help someone else? Maybe the data has little value to me, but maybe I know somebody else who, could do wonders with that data for maybe their own operations, their own customers, their own group. So it's a matter of, approaching everything that comes in with a critical eye. It's specifically if you want to go to change, you see, there's a difference between reality and perception. You can have a perception of something until you've seen the data in front of you, and it will break your perception of it. You could say, I've got, a million dispatch in an area, or at least I believe I do, because that's all I hear. But once you've pulled the data, maybe it only represents, 5% of your entire volume, which now you just broke your perception. Maybe you're now going to be shifting your attention to something else, which is what's the problem at heart, and not what the perception you've been having from maybe conversations, comments, and passings, and things like that.
Is your company utilizing AI to any degree? Is AI maybe helping with this at all, or is your AI?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Our
Okay.
AI doesn't ingest most of our data. Most of our data is manually looked at. Obviously, it depends on the data sets. If we're including, millions of entries, that's when we're going to need some help for, somebody to either make some revision, make some summary, or, one of our performance analysts, one of our business intelligence, peer is going to have a massive query on it, summarize it himself and then send it back. But yes, it's something we do. Actually, Telus is one of the, I believe is the first to have our ethical AI certificate. I have to go look for the entire wording, but this is actually, publicly available online. We got our own AI, division, and we've got certificate. We've been recognized internationally for this already, so it's something that's fully available for
Wonderful.
online if somebody ever, wants to inquire about it.
Your history. How did you end up here, as the central station manager at your company?
For sure. I mean, this is going to probably make a lot of people laugh, but my entry into security was what I like to call a total fluke. But obviously, I mentioned earlier, I started in security 15 years ago. 15 years ago, obviously, the job landscape was very different. I was a lot younger, obviously, and this was back in the days where I was willing to take any job back then, as as anybody was needing employment. Uh, they just happened to be the first one to call me back. And, after going through training, job wasn't bad. I actually liked the job. I started as a monitoring agent, call it bottom of the ladder if you like. I started getting my hands like anybody, responding to calls for customers that have their alarm go off. I've done this for, few months, few years, then my scope slowly expanded and became, a senior operator, which I started, being able to provide some training, answer questions to people. I eventually moved into a supervisor role for about a decade, and now I've been an operations manager. So I really started at the bottom of the ladder, went through, gradual roles as we moved on, over the years, and I got more experience, more responsibilities. People were willing to invest in me, and then now we're here today.
I'm sure your employees go through some training, and I'm curious about what does that training look like? And as a tiny little kind of aside, has that changed or been refined since you've entered into your role? Is there any like impact you've had on that, or just more generally, what does it kind of look like for employees?
No, I mean, without giving you the entire, secret sauce, I can tell that the training methods and content from when I started to today are obviously night and day. Both the theoretical kind of training and the hands-on kind of training has wildly changed. Obviously, we've had, in training classes, and so, I mean, in-person classes, 15 years ago, we still do some today, but, through COVID, everything moved remotely. So we had, to be very creative on that front. But what's important is continuous training. Our employees don't start, get 2 weeks of training and then never have training again. Training is continuous, and that's part of, quality assurance. And, with all the changes that we do as well, you got to make sure your staff is always fully trained and always fully on top. This is what, keeps you on top of your work and on top of the industry, is making sure that anytime an employee has something new, or even if they request training by themselves, that you provide it to them. You could say, hey, maybe I'm missing some key components. I understand the concept, but I need some additional, insight on it. We'll provide training. We've got modules, we've got full training, we've got, ad hoc. I mean, any type of training you can think of, we have it available. And we've got a fully developed content platform that's self-serve as well. So somebody could just look up any terms that they need, and you've got all your training documents, you've got your explanations, your step-by-step. So it's a very, very comprehensive kind of training.
Wonderful. Only a few more questions here. One of them being, how do you, in your opinion, contribute to the idea of keeping employees underneath you happy?
That's a complicated question. I would love to tell you, well, actually, I believe my employee are self-motivated and, self-happy. But what I do contribute to it, I'll say, and everybody's going to tell you that they do, which is very fair, is by genuinely caring for their concerns. And just what I mean by that is, what's their problem may not have the same weight in my eyes. For you, it could look like a mountain, and for me, it could look like a pebble. But what's important is, even if to me it looks like a pebble, your concern is valid. It means if you felt, that you needed to talk to me about it, it means that something needs to happen. Either it's going to take 5 minutes of my time or 10 hours of my time or even more. It doesn't matter. If you decided you need to bring something to me, it's because you needed some help, regardless of how big or how small it is. And this is how I believe I keep most of them happy, is that I take all their concerns like if they were mine.
And my final prepared question being, can you offer any kind of closing thoughts or parting advice to other managers out there?
Don't ever discourage yourself. You're going to go through highlights, you're going to go through lowlights, you're going to be some hard days, there's going to be some easy days. And I guess what's going to ever make or break you is how you react to obstacles. Some are going to be very tough. Some could, even reflect on your personal life. I mean, don't ever give up. I mean, the grit is what will, turn you from somebody who actually finds their day job to be, I don't want to do more than 9 to 5, and it's a struggle, to, what, I actually enjoy these challenges, and this is what actually keeps me coming to work day after day. Like, I I personally don't like, static and, things that never move. So I actually go try to find challenges myself and find issues. So once you went through this, I'm gonna say, mental side of, going through obstacles and how to deal with either, refusal or dealing with roadblocks, you'll probably find a lot of enjoyment in your day to day. And this will probably, elevate you to the next step in your career.
Wonderful. Well, Erik, I appreciate making time, and once again, congratulations.
My pleasure. Thank you, Chris.